So we are in conversation with Mandy Bishop from Smart Columbus, and we are here to talk to her about and learn about the smart city initiatives here in the city of Columbus. Hi Mandy, thank you so much for your time for speaking to us.
Oh, you're welcome.
So I must start by saying the city of Columbus is becoming a hotbed for smart city innovations. So can you walk us through a little bit about the smart city program and also the progress that has been made so far?
Absolutely. A lot of our work has been really focused on what we won in 2016, which was the U.S. Department of Transportation $40 million grant, as well as another $10 million from the Paul G. Allen Family Foundation. And that $40 million is focused on bringing technology and mobility and incorporating it into everyday residents' lives. And with the Paul G. Allen grant, we're really focused on decarbonizing our grid and electrifying the transportation sector. We've made great progress since we inked the deal back in 2016. We're in year 3 of our grant, delivering on all of these projects and programs. And a lot of our projects for the US DOT program are technology focused. When I joined in 2016, I was like, oh, I'm going to go run another transportation program. That's my background, I'm a civil engineer. And what I really walked into was running a technology program. And I'm working with engineers that have built roads and bridges throughout the state and the country. And we're being asked to develop an application for very specific populations to bring mobility into everybody's life on an everyday basis.
Right, that really sounds interesting. So you mentioned about the US DOT grant that we had won in 2016. And since then, I think there's been an acceleration of investments and a lot of interest by other startup companies as well. So how do you see the ecosystem evolving over a period of time with such technology companies and investments coming in?
Yeah, well, I'd say the grant really spurred all of that, and it gave us a brand to work with. And technology companies are really looking at what the grant brought to the table. They're also looking at how they can be more innovative in the things that they do. We're seeing a lot of work around smart mobility. We're certainly seeing a lot of work around telecommunications, data, IT services in general. And all of these companies are looking to make their mark in the smart city space. And so it's going to continue to evolve. When we applied it in 2016 to the US DOT, we had about $90 million in what's called aligned investment in the community, and now we're over $500 million. And we're going to continue to see, and those are investments that companies are making in themselves that are aligned with smart city principles. And I think we're going to continue to see new businesses, those startups that want to work in the mobility, the data, the healthcare, the financial services spaces in this arena. But we're also going to see people that are trying to make themselves better in the work that they already do.
That's very interesting. So maybe we'll dig a little deeper on that. I think you did touch upon briefly about the operating system that would be the backbone for the whole smart city initiative. So can you talk a little bit about that, and how that is going to create an impact for the residents in the cities, the businesses, and the entrepreneurs coming into play?
Absolutely. So our operating system is called the Smart Columbus Operating System. It's a web-based integrated data exchange built using open source tools. That's pretty common in the private sector that you would use an open source. And for us, it's a little bit different, but that's where a large investment is going to support our data strategy. We're really focused on the operating system not just being a repository for data. We really want the operating system to be a place where people that aren't data scientists can go to access data to visualize it. There's a lot of data out there. You probably have data at home. You have data on your phone. You have data that's on paper, but it doesn't really tell a story. And that's the main value of the operating system to municipalities. To businesses and entrepreneurs, it may give them a place to host an application. This is future state. That they can help maybe develop a new business around. It may give someone access to data that was marginally available. It was available before, but now it's usable. And so that's really our vision, is that you can use the Smart Columbus operating system and the data that it has to build something that you want to do, and that could be a better business structure. It could be a more efficient government. It could be a brand new business that leverages data. And it could just be efficiencies in something that you want to do as just a regular citizen of Columbus.
Rightly said, and actually solve real life problems using the data sets, right?
We want to solve real life problems.
True. And that would also open up a lot of possibilities around how the city evolves in terms of interaction between different entities.
Yes.
Be it mobility between the bus and other modes of transportation, right?
Yes, we're actually developing an application. It's called a multimodal trip planning application. It's built using an open source tool called Open Trip Planner. And we're leveraging the operating system for that microservices layer, that intelligence that stores trips, helps make them more efficient, and does the trip planning within the edge of the operating system.
Fascinating. So we'll probably change gears a little bit.
Sure.
And I would want to pick your brains on, as a part of the whole transformation within the city itself, climate change is a forefront in terms of the conversation we're having on a global scale.
Absolutely.
So are there any specific climate change related targets or mission that you have as a part of the Smart City initiative?
Yeah.
And what are the type of technologies that you might be looking at, or if you can talk something to that?
Absolutely. And I would say that our climate change focus is really in three sectors. It's transportation, because we won a grant and we know it's one of the sectors where more technology is coming online. Plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, electric vehicles. We're also really focused on decarbonizing our grid, because if we have more EVs charging in the city, we can't just transfer that carbon load to the grid. So we want to see more solar and wind. Then we're also focused on commercial buildings. Commercial buildings we have a very mature infrastructure in the city of Columbus. It's lovely, but it's also aging and possibly inefficient. We also want to set new standards for buildings that help reduce their carbon load on the environment. So right now, our focus is really in those three arenas.
So, I think with all what you just explained, it sounds extremely exciting for an engineering company like us. So when you look at the public-private partnership for this particular type of initiatives, right? What kind of a role do you see for, say, engineering service providers like L&T Technology Services or other private sector companies that would want to come and play and partner with the city of Columbus?
Well, so what I would say is the Smart Columbus is an informal public-private partnership in its core. And that partnership was established at the time of application. And that helps bring the private sector closer to the city of Columbus and helps us engage earlier. I see a lot of opportunities for engineering companies like yourself in this space, because cities don't necessarily they have ideas, but they don't necessarily have the people, the human capital, or the skill set, or the past history and experience to deliver on those ideas. So where cities can really benefit is with that expertise.
Sure. And I think talking about talent development itself that you touched upon, I think the technology is ever evolving, and there's new age technologies coming in. You need to reskill people, plus you need to build new set of talent pool as well. So I'm sure, can you talk a little bit about how Ohio State University is collaborating in those terms, and how companies like us can also facilitate in such talent pool development over a period of time?
I think the biggest thing we're seeing is how do we, we know some of the gaps, and some of the gaps are, in the technology space, and some of the gaps are in the electrification space, financial services, across the board. But some of the gap is simply in the curriculums. So for you talked about Ohio State University, everyone's really looking at their curriculums of today and saying, will they serve our engineers of the future? And I think that's something that you as a private sector firm they have to drive that conversation, and you have to sell the Ohio State Universities, the Columbus States, the other centers that are producing the next generation of engineers, that we need them with these skill sets coming out of your school. And that's how somebody like L&T can certainly drive the market. We are working, City of Columbus right now is doing a workforce development study. We're looking at what the jobs of the future look like in transportation, financial services, electrification, and healthcare. Largely focused on electrification and transportation, because that's where our comfort zone is at Smart Columbus. But ultimately, we'll be looking to, and we'll also be reviewing what training programs are out there and what gaps exist in those training programs, and then seeking assistance and a strategy on how to close those gaps, so that we can make sure that people and employers are better able to connect and say employers have this specific need, and the employee has the right skill set to meet that need.
Absolutely, and I think we look forward to contributing and participating with that and collaborating with all of you.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, it was very nice speaking to you, Mandy. Thank you so much for sharing your views. I truly appreciate your time for this.